Hey guys, so this is the gouache demo and we're going to be painting a shark for this video. So what I have is a sketch of a shark and then two circles that are the size of your palm to be somewhere around the shark. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be working with gouache for the first time, so imagine if gouache was a combination of acrylic paint and watercolor. So we have these two circles, right? And what we plan to do is make one part more transparent and then one part more opaque. And I'm having you guys get in the habit of this so you guys can practice and understand that there are some points in a painting that you will need to make it more transparent, or there's going to be a point in your painting that it needs to be more opaque. So notice that I don't have too many details drawn out. And you want to keep it as simple as you can because the gouache will go over all your lines and marks. So there's no need to go overboard with the details. So all you need for this demo is a brush, a cup of water, the palette of gouache, and then also a paper towel. So very quickly, I want to show you guys how similar watercolor and gouache are. So as you can see, I'm using water to reactivate and bring that color back alive. And just like that, you could use that color again. So it's very cool because if you happen to leave a color for a while and then you want to come back to it, you can totally use it again. So the biggest thing that I want you guys to get out of this demo is to practice and experiment with layering. And what I mean by that is that right now I'm working with a gray as the first layer for the shark, but then in the middle I will add more browns and different shades of grays, and I also might add black, so it's just adding other colors. And then you would also want to add a few greens and blues in there because those are the colors of the ocean that would reflect onto the shark. So those would be the middle layers, and then on top we would have what would reflect on the shark, and you guys are going to see that last. While I'm working, I want you guys to notice that I'm not putting that much paint onto the paper. So I'm barely grabbing any paint on my brush while I'm also using water. So water is really nice with this medium because it's going to move things around without the need of using a lot of the gouache. But there's also a catch. So remember that water reactivates gouache. So let's say you have the first layer and then you want to do the second layer. Remember that if you're pushing around colors in that second layer, you have the chance of reactivating that first layer, which causes the first layer and the second layer to mix together. So this can be a pro or a con because, you know, it makes it easier to blend if you're able to reactivate it with water. But it sucks because then you might forget eventually and then you accidentally mixed two of your colors together. So it's just keeping in a habit of just remembering while you're working. Remember that you guys are just experimenting when working on this demo. So right now we're going to work on the more transparent part. So that just means that you guys are going to be working it like as if it was watercolor. And right now I'm just adding water before adding the paint, which I want you guys to do as well. And it just makes it more transparent looking. And then later on I plan to add green. So what is so great is that I don't have to worry about it right now because since gouache reactivates with water, I don't have to blend this very second with other colors. So it's very nice whenever you want to take this medium very slowly and you want to focus on one thing at a time. So I know that you guys can't see the paper towel and the cup of water that I'm using, but every time that you guys see my brushes out of the screen, it's because I'm most likely getting more water to put into the project. So gouache is very opaque, and just by mixing a little bit of water can do so much for the project. So while you guys are working on the circle now, you guys are going to notice that even though we're using the same color of gray from the outside, because now it's diluted with water, it's gonna look different. But we actually want it to look different. There's a reason why I'm having you guys practice the two different ways, because in a project, there will be moments where having a more transparent look will look better. So what's so great about gouache is that you are able to add layers on top of each other no matter how dark or light. So you guys see how dark it is for my first layer of the shark? Later on, I'll be adding light blues and whites, and it will not be a problem for me because that's what gouache is able to do. And it's very different from watercolor because with watercolor, you have to be careful with your darks and your lights. Also note, guys, that whenever the paint dries, it will change to a little bit of a different color. It does usually become a little bit darker, so just remember that whenever you are putting colors down. So right now, this is a perfect example of what I mean by transparent and opaque colors. So you could see that one of them is very soft and then the other one is very bold. And I'm actually using the exact same shade of blue, but because the transparent part has diluted water, which causes the white paper in the background to really pop out. So on the more opaque part, the outside of the circle, I had to add white to get that light blue color. So these are things that I want you guys to think about whenever you start working on your main project. And I know a lot of you guys are working with gouache for the very first time with this demo. And even if it feels like you're failing, just remember that this is just a demo. This is just to practice the medium and get the hang of it before you actually start your main project. So there is no need to feel overwhelmed or frustrated with this demo because you are just experimenting with everything that you have. So I'm currently adding like this purple blue color at the bottom of the shark. And as we could see, the bottom half of the shark is white, but the color of the ocean does reflect on things. So on the shark, we want the color of the ocean to reflect onto its skin. So we see this dark purple color on it. And that's because the bottom half of this background will be that color, but it's going to be very bold and dark. And same way goes to the top. We'll see a more of a light blue color, and we'll see the shark have that light blue at the top half. So whenever you're in the transparent circles, remember that you only want to add water to the areas that you're going to work on. Because if you add water to the whole circle, water is going to transfer everywhere and it's not going to stay in the areas that you want it to stay. So you have to be very careful where you add the water. And this is where I'm adding the dark purple bluish color. And if you happen to want different colors as the ocean, kind of like a pink, or if you want it to be all green or all red, you are more than welcome to try it out. Just remember that those colors still reflect onto the shark. So I also wanted to show you guys how much paint I grab sometimes. It could be the smallest little dot, and you'll see right now how much paint I could use for that little dot. So I just wanted to show you guys that a little bit goes a long way when it comes to gouache. And if you guys happen to feel very uninspired by this picture of the shark, you guys are more than welcome to find a different picture of a shark that you are more interested in. You would just have to make sure that you draw the 2 circles in there, just so you guys could still practice how to do the more transparent and opaque parts of this demo. So I know it kind of sounds like you're not using that much water in the more opaque and bold areas, but that is not true. You're still using a lot of water, especially to move the pigment around and to make things blend. It's just in the transparent areas, you're going to be using less paint to give it more of a transparent look. And here's my result with all the tips that we learned from this video.